In the history of movies with stupid names, your Dudes Where's My Cars, your Stops or My Mom's Will Shoots, your Contrabulous Fabtraption of Professor Horatio Huffnagel, one film stands above all as the stupidest namiest. One film just as ridiculously gooftastic as its gooftacular name. I'm talking about Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo. And this movie is bonkers. Now you might be wondering, just what is an electric boogaloo? Well, Electric Boogaloo is a story about the power of dance. The unstoppable, insatiable, all-devouring power of dance. Never before has such a force been portrayed so graphically on movie screens. Breakin' 2 is like something out of a zombie apocalypse. Crazed mobs of dancers swarming city streets with no explanation, no motivation other than the irrational compulsion to run rhythmically amok. Dance is a virus more contagious than COVID, where every random passerby immediately succumbs to the infection. Look at this person. These movements are not voluntary. Resistance is futile. You will be assimilated. Such was the cultural phenomenon known as Breakin'. To understand this crazed neurological disorder, we must travel back. Way back to the wistful, neon-toned days of the 1980s.
It's the 80s. Do a lot of coke and vote for Ronald Reagan.
The 80s were a weird time for pop culture. But while most of America was busy poofing up their hair or standing in line for the latest Steve Guttenberg movie, the kids in the inner cities were creating a vibrant new subculture around a form of improvisational dance they called breakin'. And this shit blew up. So it didn't take long for Hollywood to come a-knockin' in the form of B-movie assembly line Cannon Film Group. Best known for every cheesy action movie you've passed in a video store but never bothered to rent. The first Breakin', where I believe the Boogaloo was manually powered, starred Adolfo Shebedoo Quinones as Ozone and Michael Boogaloo Shrimp Chambers as Turbo. The film was directed by Joel Silberg, a Tel Aviv-born filmmaker previously known for Hebrew language comedies and musicals. Because who knows more about teen street culture than a 55-year-old Jewish man, am I right? The movie debuted in 1984 with a poster that proclaimed, "You gotta push it to pop it, rock it to lock it, break it to make it." And evidently it was successful enough that Cannon possibly set the world record for the shortest amount of time between an original movie and its sequel. Silberg, however, did not continue the adventures of Ozone and Turbo, instead choosing to shift his talents to something a little more fitting his age and background. Rappin'! About the street sensation that's sweeping the nation.
My name is Ice and I own this town. That's only when Hood's not around.
Fresh. So instead, Cannon hired Sam Furstenberg, who had previously made movies like Revenge of the Ninja and Ninja 3 Domination, and would later go on to make American Ninja and American Samurai. But to give Sam credit, the direction in the sequel actually is better than the original. So I guess shooting ninja battles carries over into making dance sequences. But on the subject of dance sequences, I have to warn you just how much dancing is actually in this movie. Really, the only thing I can compare it to is softcore pornography. Only instead of 1 minute of plot to get to the next 5 minutes of nudity, we have 60 seconds of dialogue to get us to the next excessively long dance sequence. To give us something to compare it to, Chicago, a musical, is 28% dancing. Footloose, a movie about dancing, 16%. And of course Pulp Fiction at 1.9%. But Breakin' 2 blows them away at 47%. That means if we cut out all the dancing, the movie would only be 48 minutes long. So buckle up and grab your Dramamine, because you're about to experience more flailing limbs than an epileptic Jackie Chan. After an opening montage that hardly hints at the insanity to follow, our story begins with Kelly getting chewed out by her father, Whitey T. Richmond, because Whitey doesn't approve of his daughter hanging out with those street people. Now, if it were 10 years ago, she could just say, "But I'm a rich, privileged hipster. It's like our whole thing." But in the 80s, all she can muster is the old, "You guys don't understand me." So Kelly goes to her room, where we see the poster for the first Breakin' movie on her wall. So anyway, we cut to this loser who can't catch a football, where Ozone and Turbo are cleaning up the dump. and Turbo mumbles something about ninja socks.
The mere sound of Kelly's voice on the phone drives the funk from your ninja socks away.
But hey, Kelly's back! And everyone's so excited that Kelly's back that this happens.
Hey, Kelly K, won't you come this way? We're gonna take you to the place where we all stay.
And apparently, that's all it takes to release the contagion! They storm the streets. Little children are jumping out of every crevice. The infection spreads from the phone guy, to the street vendors, to the construction workers, to this traffic cop. This poor mailman must be immune compromised, because he goes straight into his death throes. No, not the old ladies! Their hearts can't take it! The power of dance is so strong, it even averts a surprise attack from the Viet Cong. Hey, how come these guys aren't dancing? How are they immune? Does their thick carpet of 80s hair block out the funky beats? Then all of a sudden we're in a park, where there's a completely different group of people dancing. And when this little cutie does a Booker T spin-a-rooney, Boogaloo shrimp gets hard boiled. But then everyone's like, yeah, screw these guys, this sucks. Oh, but looky here. Seems our little shrimp is growing into a prawn. And as the insurrection enters its second day. So at this point, the phone guy has now abandoned his job and is now damaging private property. But the whole procession ends at what can only be described as the My Little Pony White House. But no, this is not where small pastel horses make decisions on national security. This is Miracles, the community center that serves as the ground zero for the dance infection. And like any White House, it contains a terrifying clown! So in a scene very closely resembling the theater sequence in Escape from New York, they tour this shambled together house of misfits to meet Byron, who runs the place. And we find that Turbo is definitely going to be the Harpo of this movie. Now, if you've ever wanted to be a teacher, learn a lesson from a master right here. Ozone asks this kid to show him what he's got, and he does a very basic arm roll that he's clearly been practicing. But then Ozone's like, yeah, but maybe try something more like this, and then does the most complicated thing possible. Yeah, I'll just do that, thanks, that's good teaching. And oh good, more dancing. They got the double bird flip walk, and scary clown! But Napoleon Dynamite approves. But then arrives our villain, Mr. Evil J Capitalist, along with some Smithers I'm gonna name Egbert Cornelius III. And our villain says,
Randall, I want this building.
Randall, I want this building.
Nailed it. Guys, stop for a second and just look at this dude's face. This is the face of rich corporate evil. Grab some impact font and start memeing. Now, Mr. Capitalist says he wants to demolish Miracles because it's on the perfect spot for his new shopping center. But you know he's doing it just to be racist.
And that building that the kids are in, well, that has got to go.
What? We haven't had any dancing in 1:40 seconds? We better fix that! And then this. Just all of this. No story reason for any of this. It's all sound and fury signifying nothing. So after 2 full minutes of that, we're back to Evil and Egbert, now with the city's zoning commissioner, trying to get approval to demolish Miracles. And the conversation goes something like this. Miracles? That sounds so inspiring. Yes, they do a lot of good for the community. Let's destroy it. Now listen to this little bit right here. I don't know whether this is really smart or really stupid.
If we took this area and put in a shopping center here.
But where will all those kids go?
Did you catch that? She was so distracted by the destitute children that he just slipped in that shopping center line completely unnoticed. Dude, do you have any idea how much bureaucratic red tape you gotta get through to build a shopping center? I mean, that thing ought to be stuck in committee for years, right? Am I the only one who cares about this? Anywho, after letting that slip by, she completely forgets her concern for the children and caves in on the entire issue. Lady, you're a bad civil servant. You suck at your job. So after that mere 60 seconds, more dancing! We're at the club where a real badass shows up named Strobe. And Strobe says,
Electros rule the dance floor now, sucker.
And Ozone's all, oh, I did not leave my Civil War reenactment for this. So they tussle. Just a little bit of tussling. Then it's right back to the band. The next day, Byron says he got a jive letter from City Hall. So they go down to the commissioner and get told they have 30 days to raise $200,000 or they're gonna lose Miracles. And when Ozone asks, very politely whether she thinks that's a reasonable amount of time, she responds, "Hell if I know," and that's it. So begins their quest to raise money to save the rec center, which I believe was the plot of about 20% of all 80s movies. But after a montage with shockingly zero dancing, they're all bummed because all they got was a bucket full of fake prop money. But then Turbo's like, I know I'm supposed to be the dumb one, but dancing? We could raise money by dancing? It's kind of our answer to everything?
Yeah, we could have it in the streets.
Like a street festival.
Yeah.
No, because then you need permits and, security deposits and the cops to block up the streets. Am I seriously the only one who cares about these things? So we gotta get the big show ready and what the hell is Ozone wearing? Are those his work clothes? But when Kelly shows up, we get a real that bitch moment. This is Rhonda, who's basically a prettied up version of Felicia from Friday, because everyone's always like, "Bye, Felicia." But then a window shatters and Ozone yells, "Electro rock!" So here we go, out for some bloody gang violence. But you idiots, it was all a big setup. But Strobe and his goons didn't count on one thing, that Turbo will be wearing a marching band uniform. So you think Strobe and Ozone are finally gonna stab the crap out of each other. But instead, they just line up and dance at each other in a way that looks like they're fighting. Yeah, get up in her face, yeah, mess him up. And oh crap, they got nunchucks. So Ozone goes all Captain America and, oh, come on guys, this is clearly choreographed. You guys got together beforehand and planned this. Then, after all that insanity, after this fool gets totally wrecked, and after whatever the hell this is, the Electro Rocks just leave. Come on guys, one stabbing, is that too much to ask for? Luckily, we get some more of Evil J Capitalist in his evil capitalist face.
I doubt if an arrogant bunch of street kids have the power to.
Now, he's supposed to be really rich and powerful, but then he drives away in a Mitsubishi wagon. Later, in a room with a Roseanne sex doll, Felicia shows up, and she's all, "Stay away from that Kelly!" But Ozone's all, "Bye, Felicia." Meanwhile, Turbo's in the park ogling his crush again, and I'm starting to think he's called Turbo ironically, because this dude's kinda slow on the pickup. I mean, she's obviously inviting him to dance with her, but he's all, "Duh, what?" By the way, great random fat guy cameo. So, back with the Roseanne sex doll, Turbo asks Ozone how to make it with a girl. So Ozone shows some pickup tricks he learned from Bugs Bunny. And now I'm starting to think Turbo might actually be mentally challenged, because when Ozone has him practice talking to the Roseanne sex doll, he just goes all Mongo like, "Do I kiss her? Can I kiss her now? When do I kiss her?" So Ozone starts dancing with the Roseanne sex doll. But since Turbo is incredibly stupid, he thinks the Roseanne sex doll is his crush, and gets all jealous. But I guess the dance virus has affected Ozone's brain as well, because he now thinks the Roseanne sex doll is Kelly, and gets mad at Turbo for dancing with his woman. So a battle ensues for the Roseanne sex doll, until the Roseanne sex doll is torn limb from limb, which is proof that both of these psychos are capable of murder in their frenzy. So later, Kelly thinks, hey, you know who has a lot of compassion for poor inner city minorities? My rich racist father. So she invites Bozo and Turbine to her house in the hope of getting a big donation. So Ozone shows up in his best S&M leather and Turbo in a second marching band uniform, and things turn into guess who's dumbing to dinner. And Turbo really harpos it up in this sequence. Oh, Turbo's eating soup, that's funny somehow. But without even being asked, Whitey Richmond refuses them any money because they'll just spend it all on drugs and fancy clothes. Now, drugs, probably not, but he's got a point with the clothes. I don't know if you've ever been on a marching band, but those uniforms aren't cheap. So back to Turbo torturing himself over a girl who already clearly likes him, Kelly just tells him to say yes. And this one simple word turns Turbo into a robot. Then time and space shatter as Turbo gains Spider-Man powers and starts Lionel Richieing it on the ceiling. Now this was done with a rotating set effect, where they literally spin the entire set like a big hamster wheel. And you can actually see it spinning through this little crack in the wall. But other than that little flaw, this is a really well done effect, especially when you consider all the stuff the set dresser had to glue down to make this believable. So from a technical standpoint, this is definitely the high point of the entire film. But when Turbo's crush shows up for some unknown reason, she shows no surprise at any of this. She's just like, oh, you're on the ceiling, that's neat. Now we're back at the club where the Roonies are a-spinning, and who should be on stage but hip-hop icon Ice-T, dressed as some sort of cowboy road warrior. And while Ice-T loses his mind, Ozone wants to make a truce with the Electro Rocks, saying, "We need your juice, Strobe." But Strobe just says,
"Don't lay the jive on me, man. I don't need it."
Dang, that's cold. And then... Sorry, I got distracted. Then Kelly arrives with great news. She just got cast in the lead role of a big show that's going to be opening in Paris. But instead of being happy for her, Ozone turns into a little bitch and storms away. So now it's time for Felicia to say bye to Kelly. But Ozone's got a plan. He puts up a banner. And you can't put up a banner without a little celebratory dancing. Now, you guys are seeing this, right? It's like he's dancing between the legs of a naked sleeping giant. You know, these dance sequences really wear you down after a while. And at this point in the movie, I'm totally exhausted. But then Ozone does his crazy little elf dance, and I'm right back on board. But then suddenly the dam bursts, and it's revolution! Things get all January 6-y as the crew storms City Hall and interrupts Egbert's hearing with the council.
Oh dear, my egg is cooked now.
Yet despite the pleas of an adorable little white girl, the world's worst commissioner gives them 14 days to vacate the premises.
You guys are whack.
Whacked. Who?
But don't worry, Ozone gets them back with this sick burn.
Listen, sucker.
But Turbo knows the best way to fight the man is by being a dick. Which leads to a chase, which leads to Turbo's stunt double falling down the stairs. So now Turbo's in a coma with a broken arm and leg, but luckily his crush materializes out of a cabinet and Sleeping Beauties him awake. Now I don't think this girl is ever actually given a name, and she doesn't speak a word of English, so all she does in this movie is just go, in badly done ADR. So anyways, now that Turbo's out of a coma, it's time for a dose of vitamin dance! And reality breaks again. It's pandemonium as these psychopaths show the world the healing power of dance. But they need help, so a Playboy video breaks out. But instead of stripping, these naughty nurses start faith healing. By the power of dance, be healed! Whoa, guys, that cannot be good for the fetus. The power of dance can even conquer death itself. This guy is flatlining, and the surgeons have given up. But then, the dead man comes back to life. But I guess the power of dance can't do anything for broken bones because Turbo's still stuck in his bed at the end of the sequence, so what are the rules here, movie? So Kelly and Ozone are celebrating with some shirtless bedroom pizza when they're caught by Whitey Richmond. And Whitey is so upset that he offers to pay the entire $200,000 to save Miracles if Kelly promises to never see Ozone in his stupid genie pants ever again. But Ozone answers for her saying, "We don't need your money, we got our pride." Dude, you're gonna be poor forever. You could've just taken the money and kept seeing her on the sly. Anyway, Kelly's not on board either, and when she comes back to Miracles, we get another face-off with Felicia. And it's all, "Bye, Felicia. No, you bye. No, you bye." No, she ruins the pizzas. That is unforgivable, Felicia. But the cat fight gets preempted by the arrival of an army of bulldozers moving into battle formation. Don't they have like 12 days left? This movie shows no concern for city codes and regulations. What are we gonna do, Ozone? There's only one thing strong enough to beat these guys. Is it the power of dance? Yes, it's the power of dance. Okay, this is not safe. Ozone, you are endangering the children. When climbing on any large vehicle, you want at least 3 points of contact at all times. Well, at least if someone does get seriously injured, it's gonna be the clown. But then our villain shows up in his Mitsubishi wagon, and he's all, screw the kids, mow them down! But Turbo has busted out of the hospital, and since he doesn't have the brains God gave an avocado, he pulls a Tiananmen Tank Man in front of the dozer. Why'd you stop? 'Cause I don't want to murder a child? No, go ahead, murder a child. Nah, suppose about time we be moseying on. So the dozers all just leave. Oh, all product placement, you good! Then out of nowhere, the media shows up and makes a big deal out of this. And Egbert shows his resolve is as fragile as a skull by instantly reversing his position. And since all corporate D-bags are cowards at their heart, Mr. Capitalist not only caves under media pressure, but allows Byron to extort him out of $10,000. But dude, this guy in his freaking face. MVP of this movie. But things ain't over, we gotta raise the rest of the money with our big show. So they do their saucy beret number, and they got a mini Michael Jackson, and they got this guy doing yo-yo tricks, and they got whoever the hell this is, and they got the gobbledygooker? They got the freaking gobbledygooker! And I guess the power of dance can heal broken bones. It just takes a little while longer, because here's Turbo right back to normal. But who should come to save the day?
Ice-T! That's right, it's me, Ice-T. I care now. You make me care more.
Let's crunch some numbers. But I guess that number was 30 because that's exactly how many seconds he spends on stage. But I gotta give him props for this bar. This isn't a party, it's a demonstration to try to counteract the city council's legislation. Word. Well, it seems Whitey Richmond was so impressed by all the fresh fly moves that he comes down and pledges the remaining $50,000 to save miracles. So everybody's happy, Ice-T is gadding about, Dad's wearing a do-rag on his head, and everything ends happily ever after. And just a tip, guys, when you're renovating the building, paint that a different color. Now, usually when I take apart a movie like this, I add some screencraft knowledge, so y'all can learn to write better scripts from other movies' mistakes. But in this case, no notes. 10 out of 10. Deserves more Oscars than a barrel of slapping willies.